So, for example, suggests that there is a cap on what schools are allowed to spend and school property tax levies that are capped. I mean, why not go in that direction instead of going in the direction of providing property tax relief through direct rebates, which I got to say, in an election year, looks an awful lot like trying to sweeten the pot for voters at a time when you're trying to maintain control of the chamber?
Well, first of all, the Senate has passed a bill which includes a property tax cap, the restoration of the Senior Star rebate, and a circuit breaker. So we passed that. The Assembly has not passed that, and we're going to continue to advocate for that in the bigger budget. The issue of a property tax cap is something that the Senate supports, both conferences, the Assembly does not support. And there are many people, particularly in the education world, who are completely opposed to the concept of a property tax cap. They believe that it will be destructive to education. We believe it's far more democratic. It allows voters in those school districts who have to vote on those budgets to make a determination as to how much money they want to spend in their districts, but yet and still put a cap upon how much money they can spend. If the voters want to overturn that cap, so be it. But, up until now, there's been tremendous resistance to the idea of a property tax cap. The governor has been supportive of a property tax cap. The Senate is supportive. The Assembly is not.
So what do you say to people who, including the governor actually, who suggest that this line in the sand that the Senate Democrats have drawn on property tax relief actually has a lot more to do with political motivations than it does for, it's nice, of course, that you're going to be providing relief, and that's fantastic, but the real motivation actually is more political than policy-oriented. What's the response to that?
Then I would say to all of those people, welcome to politics. Budgets are inherently political documents, and what they do is they reflect the priorities of the budget makers, so the priorities of the Senate. And I think I could speak for both conferences in the Senate. The priorities for the Senate are finding a way to provide relief to the people who need it the most. And that is our homeowners in the suburban regions and in Westchester and upstate New York, where people are now, their property taxes have far outstripped their mortgage payments. And if there are people out there who don't think that that's important to try and find a way to provide stability to homeowners, well, then we have a fundamental disagreement. In a budget of $130 billion, we can find relief for the people who are suffering the most.
Even if it requires borrowing?
Listen, all of those issues are on the table. The governor had tasked his lieutenant governor with developing a plan to provide stability to the budget. He put forth what I think is an excellent plan that the legislature should adopt, which would require us to go to gap financing, that would require us to actually, develop a budget based upon real money as opposed to projected revenue, and take into account recurring expenses and put some stability in this. I believe that we should be able to adopt that, including the Financial Review Board. And I actually think if we're going to be allowed to utilize borrowing as a method of dealing with the immediate crisis, then there has to be real strings attached to it. I know some people want to pick apart the Ravage plan. I think that's a mistake. I think we have to adopt it in its entirety. And I'm somewhat confused by the governor's statements now that the plan that he asked to be created, he is, now he no longer supports.
Let me ask you, Senator, before I let you go, are we going to get a budget?
Well, yes, we will get a budget, and I know there's been a lot of, comments about how the budget is 3 weeks late, and certainly it's too late. It would have been nice if we got it passed on time. Not simply because I'm not getting paid, but there's a whole lot of people in the state of New York who are concerned about whether their bills are going to get paid. But this isn't the first time the budget has been late. In fact, the year I ran for office, the budget wasn't passed until August 28th of that year. So I certainly don't think we're going to go that long. I think the June 1st deadline that the controller of the state of New York has indicated is a serious crisis for us is a very serious crisis. And I think, if serious people want to sit down and hammer out the final $2.5 billion, we could get this accomplished in a relatively short period of time. Well, but political grandstanding isn't going to get us any closer to that $2.5 billion mark. It's going to require political will. Sit down, hammer it out, get it done. It's not going to be pretty. This is not going to be a good news budget, not for by anybody's stretch of the imagination. And the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get.
Well, Senator, I hope it's not August. And I think that everyone else who's watching tonight does too. And I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
Take care, Senator. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.